I have to say that intro video is super cool. This is my second week of using it, and it like totally gets me pumped up.
Yes.
So awesome. Welcome back to another episode of Sports to Suits, where I highlight former athletes that have successfully transitioned into the workforce and are leveraging some of the skills that they've learned from their background into sports into the workforce. So I'm so excited to have my friend Robert Arthur on today. Robert and I actually met, what was it, Robert? Probably 10 plus years ago now. It's been a long time.
It's been a while, but it seemed like just yesterday, but yes.
I know, we met at a conference. So anybody that's listening out there, definitely know that we've known each other for a long time and have maintained that relationship. So we'll talk a little bit about that. But Robert, I'm so excited for everybody to get to meet you if they've not met you already. I've always been really impressed around the things that you're doing in nutrition and wellness and with your family and when it comes to spirituality and faith in the workforce. So excited to have you on. Would you mind sharing a little bit with everybody, a little bit about your story, just your background?
Well, background, blue collar family, started a little bit of a reverb, Amanda. I'm not sure where that's coming from, but I started running. There was a field, my initial introduction into sport was running. There was a field day every year. I was like in, I don't know, fifth grade, probably fourth grade. And I said, Dad, I'm gonna, it was a 1,000-meter race, 1,000-yard race. I want to win that race. Dad said, okay, start running. And I did. I didn't stop.
You just kept going.
I just kept going all the way through high school, college, did cross country, long distance, ended up in some of the triathlon endeavors. And then I realized biomechanically, maybe somebody can relate to this, sometimes the elite levels and the demands on your body in a given sport, biomechanically, maybe your body isn't always suited to that. So for the upper mileage, I was breaking down a bit. So I saw the Winter Olympics, and that was the beginning of a love affair with that, one of the silent sports, which was cross-country skiing. And so I dropped out of college, Amanda, and I hightailed it for the Montana-Canadian border. And I worked in Glacier Park. And then that winter, I worked in a place called Big Sky, Montana. It's between Bozeman and Yellowstone, and they're in the beautiful Montana Rockies. So was introduced to Nordic skiing, began to compete. And then I picked up archery again, ended up on the U.S. ski archery team. We were sponsored, competed a little bit in Europe, etc. Had a blast with that. At the same time, I was an outdoor mentor, and then I ended up as in body work and massage therapy because I could work anywhere on the planet, make decent income, help people, and have some freedom and flexibility. And so my healing arts journey and my athletic journey continued. And then I also became an entrepreneur at the same time. It kind of all coincided. I've always had a nutritional toolbox, a trusted toolbox alongside the work I do as a therapist. So that's kind of a little bit of a glimpse into some of the journey there.
Well, and you always, I've always admired, you always have a lot of things going on all at the same time. And I think that's kind of similar, like in entrepreneurship, like a lot of entrepreneurs and athletes always have their hands in a lot of things. And I think people like to say, okay, we'll just focus on one thing, focus and execute on one thing. But the reality is like some of us totally operate in a lot of different capacities and enjoy having our hands in a lot of different things.
Yeah, and I think that is one of the skills that you learn as an athlete from early on is, my goodness, you have to balance family and early on school and education with training and competition, recovery time, learning a new business or different, maybe pursuing a degree. So that is one of the primary skills you do learn as an athlete.
Well, and I want to dive in. So this is fascinating to me because I've been following your work for 10 plus years now, ever since that we've met, and you've always been in the video creation and marketing space. And so would you mind sharing a little bit with the audience your journey in regards to that? Because you've been creating videos and content forever, and high quality content at that.
Well, I received that. Thank you. It's always open to debate sometimes, but I question my content at times. Anybody ever do that? So anyway, so yeah, 3 points, Amanda, around that. One, I mean, from a pure practical, being efficient standpoint, name a platform that you can express the emotion and help people connect to that emotion. Show a platform that more effectively helps you really authentically connect and engage with people, than producing content and video. It has all the different emotions and all the different senses kind of all coming together there. And secondly, yes, I begin to show up and do Facebook videos, even when I was at the beginning kind of uncomfortable doing them. And I was committed, again, another skill, another character trait from the sporting days as an athlete. Most athletes that I know are committed to always pursuing excellence.
Well, and being disciplined around it. Like, you have to be uber disciplined to create some of this content. Like, it doesn't just magically happen, right? Like, you have to have a structured plan in place. Yes, you can go live, randomly, but like, I would imagine that you have a content strategy.
Very much so, and it's aligned. It's an alignment with my. It's in alignment with my desire to give back, to help people step into their I call it turn the light on. So one of my primary personal mission statements is to help people step into their God-given power and light and create radical or vibrant health, so they can give back abundantly, not just give back, abundantly give to the world around them. So it's a combination of, helping people step into their power and light is tied to self-belief. So I've always loved the three, the M&M, focusing on mindset, nutrition, and movement.
Well, let's talk a little bit. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
What's your key components? And I do want to carry one other thought from the question earlier when it comes to video content. Guys, I really had to work on it. In college, I was a chronic stammerer or stutterer in high school and college. And I went out of my way to choose some like sales gigs and other things that would force me to get on the phone and in front of people. So I kind of met that head on. And I also had a wonderful journey with Toastmasters. So if we're going to pursue excellence, let's pursue it, because working on our ability to communicate and authentically connect is one of the most fundamental skills we could work on. So.
Oh, I absolutely love that. Like, can you share with the audience a little bit, if people are listening and aren't familiar with Toastmasters, do you mind sharing a little bit about Toastmasters, just what it is, so that people know?
Oh, I would love to. And speaking of, most athletes that I know are kind of Mr. or Miss Muchmore. Okay, so when I joined Toastmasters, I didn't just join one chapter, I joined 2 chapters at the same time, because I knew that within a few months I wanted to be competing with it as well. So have accountability. So I joined 2 chapters and I loved it. And so Toastmasters is the most established and most prevalent business organization. I say business organization, business/social. They have chapters in every major and medium-sized and some minor-sized cities around the planet. Pretty much almost every, I would say most all your developed countries in their major cities, you will find a Toastmasters.org, and you will find a chapter, unless you live in Kalamazoo in the middle of maybe a national park somewhere. So you will find within an hour of your home a Toastmasters chapter. It will compel you to really, number one, become aware of some of the filler words and grammar. Number 2, help you be more impromptu and in the moment without overthinking things. And number 3, help you become a better listener, because part of the other skill you develop there is how to be a really effective evaluator and help other people grow as well. So it's a beautiful organization.
Well, a lot of it has to do with public speaking too, right? Like you're sharing stories, you're learning about, you're speaking to an audience, and then they come back and judge you. And this is not a plug for Toastmasters, but I do think that it's important for people to understand, if that's an area of opportunity for improvement to them, that's a great resource.
Yeah, mine's an unabashedly plug. No one's Toastmasters. You just find a chapter and join it. We're not talking about supporting a business entity or whatever. It's just it's a nonprofit organization that focuses on communication skills, and it's a beautiful process.
And if you're a former athlete, like there's levels of competition in there. And that's something that I think is really important, Robert. What do you think about, former athletes? Like we're competitive by nature. Like we have to find things to keep us competitive and moving. Like, do you find, that you're getting involved in things that continue that drive for you?
Yeah, to a point. I know there's some personality styles, have some on my team even, that I work with. They love winning the trips because there's competition involved, etc. That doesn't motivate me. What motivates me is being in the game. I'm not so drawn in and I must win at all costs kind of guy. I'm a let's pursue excellence and see how I can better myself, over time. So my main competitor that I know it may seem cliche-ish, but it's true. It's how my personality works. My main competitor that I'm always competing against is myself. And that being said, in my skiing and different areas that I competed, including speaking, do I want to win and excel? Yes. Although what motivates me is, again, achieving that level of excellence versus getting the trophy or the title, if you make sense. That's just, I know, and many of my people are motivated by other kind of more altruistic reasons, other personality styles. Give them the trophy, give them the money, give them the title, and they're like, we'll do anything.
Well, and public speaking is kind of uncomfortable. Like, I don't know about you, but when I first got into doing public speaking and even videos, like there's still a lot of work and a lot of area of opportunity for improvement, right? And it's uncomfortable. And so I had somebody tell me, if your story has the ability to impact the life of just one person, like share your story. You're doing a disservice by not sharing that story. And so, I encourage a lot of people, regardless of how uncomfortable it is straight out of the gate, like share your story, find platforms to do so. What are your thoughts on that?
Very much so, because the high levels of contribution, the high levels of impact on others around you is always found outside our comfort zone. And again, there's very few things that are more rewarding than playing a role in helping people, again, believe in themselves, helping people step through something that they felt like they couldn't do. They felt just didn't have enough courage or hope or belief in themselves. And something you said, some way you shared your story, or even a process you took them through as a trainer, when you can help people break through and just become a better human being, much less more successful in business, that is so deeply rewarding. So
you talked a little bit about content strategy, and in regards to public speaking, you do a bunch of short videos and you have a lot of incredible things out there. What are some things that you would recommend to people if they're listening that they go ahead and just get started doing?
Okay. Well, number one, I have a mantra I share with many of my leaders that I work with, and it is, I am perfectly imperfect. Perfectly imperfect. Perfectly imperfect. You're perfectly imperfect. This video is perfectly imperfect. My content is perfectly imperfect, because what it boils down to, so many stories, so many speeches, so many insightful videos that could really help somebody that is looking for that answer are left undone because we're our worst critic, and because we feel like any content, tool, or video, we have to maybe get it out to the world at 100% perfection, if you will. When in reality, what I think is a video that's maybe in my head versus my heart, I'm thinking this is probably a 75% of what I'm capable of. To that person receiving it, who really is looking for that solution, it's 110%. So just give yourself permission. I give myself permission to be in what I feel inadequate at times, and I give myself permission to be perfectly imperfect and put it out there, because who am I to judge what the world around me needs and is praying for?
I love that. So you said prayer. So I want to talk a little bit about spirituality and faith in the workforce. You're a man of faith. I've always, just admired your content in regards to that as well. And so let's talk a little bit about your thoughts around faith in the workplace, because right now I believe that a lot of it is lacking personally, but I do think that there's a lot of people doing some work in this space. And I would love to hear your thoughts around spirituality, specifically in the workplace, and what that means.
Well, thanks. That subject matter can be a little touchy at times. I think if we all were totally transparent about it. And what I've learned through the years in different settings and environments is that we live our faith. Bringing faith into the workplace is the same as bringing faith into our family. It's the same as bringing faith into our morning ritual or coffee with our significant other. It's no different. And so one of the biggest lessons I'm always mindful of myself, how I bring my faith into the workplace is totally meshed with how I bring my faith to every moment, every hour, how I live my day. And so that being said, bringing faith into our workplace is simply showing up and not just being a faith-based leader on a church pew, on a prayer session, on a conference call, or whatever. It's showing up in everything we do. How we do anything is how we do everything, especially when it comes to whether we walk our faith or whether we simply talk our faith.
That's powerful. That's powerful. I think about, faith and spirituality mean different things to different people, right? Everybody has different beliefs. And so how would you, as a leader in regards to this, how would you go about incorporating, I know you said bringing yourself, right? But how would you go about incorporating some of this into the workforce? Especially if you're the leader of your own organization, because you lead by faith.
Well, it's slightly different. It's a different animal when it comes to entrepreneurialism at times, even like direct sales that I'm in, or network marketing, and then you have the traditional workplace. Often enough, the traditional workplace is you're in someone else's space. Let's be real. It could be the CEO, the president. You have your, for lack of a better word, you have your power echelon.
You're in their house.
Yeah, I mean, you do have the power structure. So when it comes to the traditional workplace, we typically have a job, and that job has parameters around it. And so to me, how we show up in that workplace is simply a little more, for lack of a better word, a little more under the radar, but it's simply when somebody's in need, or somebody, take them aside and say a prayer with them. Or, when you ever so often on social media, you post, you make it plain that you believe in a creator versus just the world just evolved. So there's ways to bring in your faith in the traditional workplace. Again, it's a little more subtle, but again, it's how we do the small things that people can quickly and undeniably realize that we are a man or woman of faith. And it's even the simple ways we react. It's the simple ways we handle forgiveness and grace. It's the simple ways we control our more darker emotions, anger, guilt, blaming, complaining, justifying. You put that aside and replace it with the fruits of the Spirit: long suffering, patience, love, grace. And so it's how we live. And then you have the entrepreneurial world. Some of the most influential, I'm getting goosebumps talking about this, because in the entrepreneurial world, there's a lot more ways to express ourselves, because so much in this other world over here for the entrepreneur, we can be often enough, we're the leader. We have a team.
You're the leader. You're the leader. You set the rules.
Or we're part of a group of leaders and we set the rules. We can start a meeting with a prayer. We can do this or talk about this. I do 2 calls a week and it's opened with my leaders and so forth. It's a servant leader chat, for example, and it's totally faith-based on my profession. So, and just put it out there. So there's 2 different kind of pathways we walk. One is a bit more, we have to be more aware, a little more subtle. And then the other path over here, we can even be more expressive because we're not in that power echelon as traditional business has. But in both, can you be an influence in both and shine in both and step into that place? Heavens, yes.
You can be a leader. Like, regardless of the path, you're a leader, right? You lead.
Right. And again, the context of faith-based leader, again, there's ways to structure that. Just be part of its awareness, Well,
and I love you posted about your wellness community, giving recognition and affirmation with flowers. Like, I loved that post because for me, it's important as leaders that we provide recognition. And it could be in the form of a handwritten thank you card or flowers or even something simple, right? Just saying thank you. But leading with affirmation and recognition, that's important.
Yeah, I do time block on Monday mornings. I time block. It's my gratitude session, and it's in this case it's once a week. I do gratitudes all the time. It's more a digest habit now. That being said, I time block, and in this case it's about 45 minutes now, where every personal customer, all my key builders that I work with and my team, including up and down in the structure, they're going to receive some type of affirmation, thank you from me in that time block. That's a crucial time block. And if you go back, and I could be in a group setting, and I don't even realize at times how much of the time it catches people at just the right time when they really needed an uplifting, affirming message. And it does make a difference. And it also authentically builds that layer of trust that you truly care and are grateful.
Well, and you've built, so I want to talk a little bit about your career. Like, you've built multi-million-dollar businesses, right? And I would imagine from a customer service perspective, everything's word of mouth, referral, you're doing cold outreach. Talk a little bit about just how you grew that, because it's impressive. It's super impressive. And, I would imagine that you incorporated some of these things around recognition and affirmation in that process.
Very much so. And it was very messy at first, meaning I did go through 3 initial ventures in that space, in the more direct sales network marketing space. And so, 3 ventures. I learned a whole lot, made a bunch of mistakes, did a few things right. And one thing I did right was I went out of my way to find mentors and role models, which to me, you have mentors and then role models. My role models are mentors who live life in a way that I strive within the balance of faith, family, business, giving, contribution. My mentors have some beautiful knowledge and wisdom in their field, although some of my mentors don't always live their life in such a way, in a more balanced way that my role models do. So I did go out of my way to find both role models and mentors, thankfully. And second, so in that process, I became a student, and I realized that I was the more I fell down, the more I stumbled, make some mistakes, felt awkward, nervous. That was a sign and a clue that I was doing things right. So I kind of in our society, we're taught that falling or stumbling or looking the fool at times, or looking like, or acknowledging the fact that you don't know something, we're taught those are bad things, which the opposite tends to be true on in the pursuit of excellence and being an authentic leader. And then part of the, I would say, the catalyst to our success in the wellness and the virtual business space, e-commerce, is number one, you have to find something you're deeply passionate about, and whatever that is. And whether it's telecommunications or technology or personal growth courses, or in my case, nutrition, it doesn't really matter. Whatever makes your heart come alive and sing, and whatever turns that light on inside, and that's tied to your sense of purpose and calling, then find that.
That was hard for me to find. Was that difficult for you to find, or was that just something like that you found like straight out of the gate? Because for me, like, that was a challenge, right? I just followed all the steps and I was doing what I needed to do in my career. And then I was like, holy crap, like I didn't find exactly what I'm super uber passionate about. Like, was that something that you stumbled onto very early on, or is it something that you're continuing to refine? Or
well, mine was almost a forced, it's almost forced on me, if you want to call it that, because one part of my, we call it the dip, the pain, is I just won a national championship, trained all summer, and then had a race up at high altitude, and I overtaxed my body, a combination of overtraining and really poor nutritional habits, and my body just kind of took a deep dive, kind of tanked in my adrenal system. And then so I say forced, but I went in search of answers, and it really was the holistic nutritional wellness side of things that helped me rebuild my health from the inside out. And that's when I really fell in love with the reality that whether you're a high-end athlete or your neighbor next door who's simply struggling to walk around the block, it doesn't really matter. All of us, we have how we choose our lifestyle choices, and much less eating choices and nutritional choices, can play a huge role in how we're ability to show up in the world around us, and definitely how we perform at work.
So true. So like, let's dive into nutritional and like the wellness aspect of that, because I see so many people are just super uber stressed. They're eating terrible. You know, even as former athletes that are in the workforce now, like I had a problem with this, but like you have to fuel your body differently than you previously did. So like, what are your recommendations around, you know, other than just eating fruits and vegetables and all that good stuff? Like, what are some of your thoughts around nutrition in the workplace?
Yeah, part of it, when you add in the workplace, it adds the whole reality of our busy lives. And if you look at your time, for example, over the course of a week, what percent of your waking hours are you at work? What percent? And it's a high percent. Okay. And then you add the time to work, getting ready and working, and then time traveling back home.
Well, family, kids, like
yeah, add all that together. And even if you're in the virtual space now, working from home, which many of us are now, even more than ever, even that, you still are juggling staying focused around your home environment. So part of the answer, Amanda, and for those listening, guys, is that it has to fit a busy life. And I do chuckle at times because I have such a variety of network and friends and connections. And I laugh sometimes. I'll pick on personal trainers, for example. So many of my personal trainer friends teach, you got to prep all this food and you got to paint all the numbers and count every little thing. And I love them. But believe me, I have some close friends who are personal trainers. And I said, okay, but what if you're not a numbers guy like me? And what if I don't really enjoy food prepping? I just want to grab something that I know is good for me. What do we do then? And then sometimes I kind of stop. And anyways, I don't mean to pick on you if you're a personal trainer, but that being said, there is a role for quick on-the-go access to nutrition that you need, that innately will make a difference. And so I'm not a big guy through the years of having this famous orange psychedelic mushroom from Mars that's under the grandmother tree in Tasmania. By the way, I love Avatar, but like anybody, I love science fiction. That being said, I've always had a nutritional toolbox that was fundamental foundational nutrition, Amanda, meaning I've always had some form of superfood that I could reach for that had the protein, had the minerals, had the enzymes, had the probiotics, had the fatty acids. I've always had that in my toolbox. I've always had a blend of adaptogens. Many of you athletes listening to this are former athletes. Hopefully you've heard of the word adaptogens. It's herbs or botanicals that help your body deal with stress. Stress in the workplace, stress in your athletic training, stress and even your family life. It lowers stress from these natural herbs and botanicals. And then I was introduced to the need for cleansing or fasting, helping the body release what doesn't belong. So I've always had some kind of fasting or cleansing, in this case, taking people beyond ketosis into what's called autophagy. If you don't know what autophagy is, Amanda, it won the Nobel Prize in Science just 3 years ago. It is a beautiful phase your body can go into when human growth hormone is like being produced at 500% greater, and the body begins to renew itself. So there's some really cool breakthroughs in nutrition. That being said, keep it simple. Find a trusted source that does test for your purity and potency. And because there's 1,000,001 products, find something that the mindset and the commitment to doing it right. Just make sure you're aware of who's behind whatever that enterprise is.
So. Reach out to Robert.
Yeah.
Reach out to Robert. He'll hook you up. I mean, that's how we met, right? Like you and I met. You're an amazing networker. You came up to me. You said, Amanda, are you interested in some nutritional stuff? Like we talked about it, right? But I was at a point in my life, I just had a baby. I was tired. I knew that my body was lacking nutrition from regular food sources. And I connected with you in regards to that. And, it regardless of where you're at in your career, like you can't go around walking in this fuzzy mindset. And part of that is just fueling your body with the appropriate resources, right?
Yeah, and a huge part of it, which we're focused on, any good company, I think, in wellness will focus on this, is gut health. It all starts with the stomach and digestive. That's where everything that's going into your 37.2 trillion cells, it has to start in the gut. And so many of us, including athletes, have a really imbalanced called biome. But the biome is all those living entities, those living things, yes, inside our stomach, large and small intestine. So supporting your gut is a huge focus point as well.
So you talked about toolbox. So if I'm just regular normal person, I need to have some good nutrition in my bag. What would you recommend? Just like for me, I'm a snacker. I like to have snacks. If I have snacks, I won't overeat at meals. What are some recommendations that you have in regards to that to ensure that you can fuel your body, but you have something like super quick and handy and ready to go?
Yeah, well, on the normal food choices in the grocery store standpoint, get some good nut butter. Get some, if you are grabbing some fruit, berries are even better. Ideally eat some protein with the fruit if you're going to do that. And then we love the process called protein pacing. Simply put, protein pacing is getting that 15, 20 plus grams of protein in your body in the form of a snack or a meal ideally every 2.5, 3 hours. You would when you do grab a snack, ideally, it would be protein rich and have some good omega fats in there as well. To me, fats take a bad rep from a marketing perspective. Your body needs fat to burn fat and to stay healthy. And obviously, I'm always grabbing a couple different. I mentioned the superfood type of meal replacement. I've always had that at my fingertips. And then there are other products on the market, whether we have them or not, that would just give you that balance. You've heard of the Zone program years ago, it came out. Just get that right ratio of proteins, carbs to fats and coming into your diet along with a healthy fiber. So you could simply Google healthy snacks and stuff. When it comes to the toolbox, obviously we have some suggestions for you that we love. That being said, just regular snacking, protein rich, with the good fats, balance it all out. And again, whatever you do, I'm very lean. And once a month, I do go into a fasting experience. So I do recommend fasting on a regular basis for the health benefits, obviously.
Talk a little bit about the fasting experience. That's interesting to me. Like, talk a little bit about what you do from a fasting experience standpoint.
Well, thank you. So many people know about intermittent fasting, and intermittent fasting works for some personality styles, some body types, etc. You have the what I think it's one's called like the 16-8. So in only 8 hours of the day are you actually snacking or eating. The other 16 hours, you're drinking, but you're giving your body and organs of elimination or rest, etc. There's all kinds of versions of intermittent fasting. One of the challenges that if you are fitness or athletically inclined, to get your adequate amount of good protein, fatty acids, etc., you got to be cramming a lot of food in that short time span. So we've taken the approach of you can still get the fasting benefits, and maybe once a month, or if you're on a weight loss or changing up body composition journey, you could do it a couple times a month. Where our particular fast experience is that you have some support. It's a blend of herbs, botanicals that help your body get into ketosis, fat burning quicker without any carbs. When you go into a fast experience, say you're going to do a 48-hour fast, Amanda, just know going into it, why not maximize the 48-hour experience, okay? And the way to maximize it is strive to go beyond just the fat burning and to go into a beautiful stage called autophagy. Because remember, when you get into autophagy, your body shifts into a higher gear of cellular renewal, replenishing human growth hormone, cortisol levels plummet way down. Your body is just doing this incredible age renewal things that it does, okay, physiologically. So it's a beautiful place to be in, but you really don't enter the autophagy part of fasting until like 24 hours into a fast without stopping the clock. Don't introduce the carbs, proteins, or fats, and you're going to be hangry and moody unless you do support it nutritionally, which we're doing that really well with some nutritional support that keeps your mood and energy balanced. And then at the 48-hour mark, even if you sleep that night and finish up at 60 hours, my goodness, you can feel really great doing that if you're nutritionally supported. And then you come out of the fast, ideally with something clean in the form of food, and in our case, a very nutritionally dense, clean superfood, because it continues to have an effect on the fasting, autophagy, cleansing aspect until you have your next meal midday. So
Well, you're an endurance athlete. You're an endurance athlete and you coach, correct? Like you mentor other endurance athletes through this nutritional stuff. So do you recommend like existing athletes doing this process as well?
Only if you want to maximize your recovery and your performance.
Nobody would ever want to do that ever. No athletes would ever want to do that. So we'll just throw that out.
with the caveat of this, if you're willing to be a little creative, think outside the box, then you could find your zone. Because every athlete that I coach with this, they really have to find their zone, how their body's responding, and then how to maximize when and how much. They got to play around with it a little bit. But once they do and find their find their flow in this, my goodness, their workouts and recovery times just go through the roof. So
it's incredible. I want to jump a little bit because I've always also admired your commitment to your family. You know, I see all the pictures with you and your wife and your grandkids and all of your kids. Like your commitment to your family is very, like, I respect that a lot. And I think it's so important to have that commitment. Like, let's talk a little bit about boundaries, right? Because we're doing a lot of social media. There's a lot of social media posts. There's a lot of things that we could just throw out there. And some people do. Like, some people just throw every single thing out there. But when it comes to your family, do you think that there's kind of a filter and some of it needs to be shared and some of it doesn't?
Yeah, again, it goes back to how different sometimes the traditional workplace, when you clock out, you're clocked out, versus the individual watching this who maybe works for their spouse from home or themselves. So there's unique environments for both, let's be real. And so 2 or 3 lessons that we've taken and learned the hard way through the years. I say I'm referring to my honeybee. Her name is Joy. We've been together 27 years. She's the love of my life. She's blessed me with 4 amazing grandkids, 3 gift kids. And one, it was crucial, paramount for me to uplift and totally respect what she was bringing to the table. When I launched our first entrepreneurial endeavor, I made the mistake, and it was an honest mistake. I found myself at a point, and I don't judge people. I'm not that kind of guy, but I was, meaning I was devaluing her job because I had the entrepreneurial thing going on. I had a business where you could make multi-millions and have a global business, an empire. And I had to catch myself and put my pride down and my walls down long enough to step into a place of appreciation and gratitude. And until I did that, I was pushing one of the most important people in my life away because I wasn't valuing what she was enabling us to do with her traditional job. And so who is ever in your life, if you are on an entrepreneurial journey, look around you, ask yourself, who's making this possible for me to build this?
That is so powerful.
Take the time to respect them, show them appreciation, and uplift them for who and what they're bringing to the table. And then secondly, going into our I think it was our third endeavor together, we set boundaries. We set a date night. We actually blocked the time off now. We set time where we turn the darn phone off. We power it down. We set Thursday morning, I'm going for breakfast with my granddaughter. Do I have plenty I could be doing that morning? Heavens, yes. Have I been out with her for a lunch or breakfast in more than a month and a half, couple of months? No. So it's my time is overdue. So set aside the time for your significant other and people that you love dearly and the most. Otherwise, the ideal time will never come. Because remember, our most precious gift we can give people is our time, and not just our time. When we set aside the time, be present. It's almost more destructive if we set aside the time and then we don't value them enough to even be attentive to them, and half the time we're doing something else. So.
A lot of people are being forced in this scenario because of COVID. A lot of people are now remote. So it's really interesting to me. Like, you guys have been working together for a long time now, right? I mean, you guys have been working as business partners for a long time.
Yes, we have, off and on. And then, we had that run of, my goodness, 16 years. And now we're, launching our new venture. But yes, we had many years together working, from finding our ways, finding the hats we both wore, respecting respecting the boundaries, and keeping the pride. That was a big part of it to me, is in any kind of relationship, but keeping the pride down and the openness and the grace, present. So.
If you guys are listening, this is so powerful and key. Like, set the date nights. Like, you've got to have some type of space away from everybody just working in the same location. Like, it is such a challenge. Last year we had, my husband and I and my daughter, we were both trying to work, trying to homeschool, like, but setting aside that purposeful time where you're present is so key. Like, it'll calm the mood down a little bit.
Oh, heavens, yes. I'm the first to admit, do we always get it right? Heavens, no.
No.
Do we look foolish at times and not smart about times? And sometimes we kind of just step over the boundaries and catch ourselves, and then forgive ourselves. Yes, it's all part of the process.
We're perfectly imperfect. I got it. Like, and that's the reality. I think that was one of the biggest things. Like, when you recognize that you're two imperfect people, three when you're 4 or 5, and when you have kids, like, and just recognizing that we're all just humans and we're here to support each other, and creating that safe space outside of just everybody constantly on their devices or on their phones. It's powerful. It truly makes an impact.
It really does. And it's so easy to step out. I'm going to talk this language for a minute, if it's okay, but I was just at a team workshop, so bear with me. But
oh, please do.
And sometimes when we step into the comparison and the competition game, which is easy to do, we're truly redirecting ourselves away from our essence, away from our power and light, if that makes sense. So we become out of balance, and more importantly, out of alignment with our core values and purpose and calling. So the key is to go from focusing on the comparison competition and focusing on contrast. Contrast meaning it's just different. So what's the difference here, and what's the beauty, what's the value that I'm seeing here that I can either add to or learn from, etc., versus, oh, this is different, let's compete with it. Oh, this is different, let's judge it, what's wrong with it, etc., as opposed to just stepping into it and realizing the contrast and difference, and then finding ways to add to that versus compete with it.
So we've talked about a lot. We've talked about nutrition and wellness. We've talked about leadership, spirituality. We've talked about family and boundaries. Like, I would love to just know your thoughts, because there's a lot of incredible skill sets that athletes have straight out of the gate. And translating that into the workplace can be a big challenge. But what are some of the skills that you would say just most athletes intuitively have that are super powerful in the workplace?
Well, one is a undeniable work ethic, which can sometimes lead. That work ethic can sometimes get us into trouble at times.
Burnout.
Yeah, burnout. And sometimes we correlate just working harder and harder, and we keep hitting our head up against the same wall. So as an athlete, I really had to learn to pause often, take a breath, analyze, tweak, adjust, and then do it again, and then pause again, tweak it, adjust it. What's working? Let's do more of that. What can I do? How can I take it to the next level? Let's weave some of that in. And based on my feedback and some of my results, what are 1 or 2 things that really aren't working that I could kind of phase out or take away, and focus on what's good, focus on what's working. And so the athlete brings that work ethic. The key is to balance it out with being humble enough and aware enough to realize that it's a journey, and we can dramatically shorten that learning curve. And we learn this from sports and athletics. Think of the coaches we really love through the years. It could be one coach, could be a group of coaches, and how big of an impact they played in your life and continue to play. And that, hopefully, that's a clue to find the right mentors and coaches. And then also another huge personality trait that athletes, I think in general, bring to the table is, at least depending on your sport, I know, that is how to play in a team, how to work in a team environment. And meaning sometimes what's best for ourselves may not be the best decision for the team at large. So it's the skill of being able to celebrate, recognize, affirm other people's success around you, and then having always a checking point, if you will, of, is this a best path or the ideal decision that's good for that community, not just myself. So.
And that's important for employers to hear. Like, it is super important, especially if you're employing like former athletes or even existing athletes. Like, being part of a team is critical. Like, even in independent sports, like gymnastics is a team sport, but not really. It's also an individual sport. And I know that the same as cross country skiing. Like, but you're used to being part of a supportive team. So making sure that employers are cultivating that or creating that space is so critical for former athletes.
It's critical. And you see it every time you go to, think of when you go to a sports camp or you go to a competition, we will rise above, and our energy and our level of performance typically dramatically increases once we're alongside other people's energy and positivity and drive. So when we bring that to the business, we can do so much more together when we hold ourselves accountable in a positive way, when we come together in workshops and retreats, whether it's virtual or face-to-face, we accomplish so much more together, working together cohesively, than everybody kind of going off and being the solopreneur. Just be mindful of that, because it's easy as an athlete at times just to say, "Oh, I'll get it done," and versus pausing and saying, "Okay, is this one of my strengths? And can I delegate this?"
And one of the biggest challenges with being remote is cultivating that. I'm an entrepreneur now. We have a small team, but we're kind of isolated, and so it's so important to cultivate either mentorship groups or other like-minded people to help create and cultivate that energy. Because like you said, Robert, we're used to being part of a team, and having that cultivation of energy is so incredibly powerful, and it'll get us from point A to point B much faster.
Yeah. There's another one of my favorite quotes is, environment is 100 times more powerful than willpower.
Let's end on that, because that is so powerful. And I just want to say, thank you so much for joining me in on this conversation today. I know that it's going to bring so much value to so many people. I know we bounced all over the place, but can you share with others how they can get in contact with you, or what's the best way to follow the work that you're doing?
Well, I have a YouTube channel. I do stuff over on Facebook or LinkedIn all the time. My wellness page is Wellness Warrior Pro. wellnesswarriorpro.com. On Facebook, it's Robert Mentoring. Feel free to look me up there. And my email is my name, Robert Arthur, just add a 4321 over on Gmail to that. So, I would love to visit with you, chat with you, whatever I can do. There's all kinds of ways to collaborate as well. Amanda, I appreciate, respect, and love the work you're doing and why you're doing it. So thank you.
Well, thank you so much. And to everybody that's watching, thank you so much. We do these every Tuesday, so would love to have you join in. These are super powerful conversations where we're highlighting former athletes that are transitioned successfully into the workforce and the amazing things that they're doing. So Robert, thanks again. And to everybody watching, we'll see you again next week.
Thank you.